The next step now is to take this actual project and actually use it with the tax lookup project that I have here, so we can actually make them work together. Now, I don't want to rewrite this code over and copy it. So some of you might attempt to do that and just do exactly what we did in this previous project. So instead of doing that, I want you to right-click here, and we're going to export this project, and we're going to make it a jar. So let's go here to Java and a jar. Let's click on Next. This jar, you can name it anything that you want to, but just so I can just keep track of what the project name is, I'll say 03 taxes DB. Okay. I'll export the source code so you can see the source code also still. And that's really it. Okay. Okay, this is telling me it's got to be in a directory, so let me put in a directory. On my machine, I created a folder called jars. You can put it anywhere that you want, as long as you can get to it. And again, I'll name it 03 and taxes DB. Okay, that's where the jar is going to. Let's click on Finish. So it has some warnings here. So there's basically some warnings that I can ignore. So as long as it's not an error, that's fine. Now the goal now is to make it work with this library. Now what we've done is created a jar. And just like any jar, we need to tell this particular project about the jar. So let's create a folder here. Let's do lib. Just basically, we just use this as a folder to haul our libraries. And again, that put it into my documents folder, jars here. And let's put in lib right there and copy the file. Note, when we were in this project, these are specific classes that connect to the database. This class, this jar right here, also needs those classes that connect to the database. So you also need to make this part of your project. And I will just copy it from here since I have it already and paste it there. Now, I think if everything's okay, we should be able to run this unless something is missing. I'm going to close everything here. Close everything here. Let's look at the tax lookup. I'm looking at all the jars that it depends on, and I think we're fine so far. So how do we get this to work? Now what we're going to do is from here, not in my driver, in my controller, this is where we're getting the data from So what we're going to do is we're going to take that code that's inside of this jar right here, and we're going to execute it. So first thing is, notice that I can't click inside of the jars. We first have to make this part of the build path. So I highlighted everything here. Let's click on Configure, Add to Build Path. Now it's part of the build path. And in this example, I had this driver lookup DAO that has mostly the code that I need here. So I just grab it. Or you can just type it in if you want to. I'll do Control C here. I'll do Control V. Okay, there's the state that's coming in, but that state is actually getting it from this tax search right here. So I will replace state with tax search. Okay, this will return the tax for that. And in our description, I'll put tax amount. Let's put in plus here and tax right here. Unless I'm missing something, this should work automatically. Let's run this and see if it works. And again, notice that I didn't recreate the class at all, meaning that I just took it from a previous project, we exported it as a jar, and then we're going to use it in this project, just like you would use any other jar. Now, let's give this a run. Make sure your database is still running right now. So in fact, I need to run this from the driver class. So let's go to the driver class, and let's run this Java application. Okay, so now let's type in New York. Let's click on search. There goes the 4%. Let's type in Connecticut. There goes Connecticut. New Jersey. There goes New Jersey. What else? AK. I think that's Alaska. And Florida. But the point I'm trying to make here is that we have connected to the database. Notice how many layers that we have here. So there's a couple of concepts that we talked about here and design patterns, just in case for those who are going on job interviews. And those design patterns that we talked about to get this to work is first, when we use the graphical user interface known with Java FX and FXML, we use the design pattern called model, view, and controller. That's one of the design patterns that we just use. Now that's the pattern that we use for the GUI. Now to access our database, we use something called data DAO, which stands for data access object pattern. Now what I want you to think of is that each particular layer has its own duty. And the key thing that I want you to keep thinking of is separations of concerns. My DAO's responsibility is to connect to the database. In this case, we used the model view control. That was also used for separation of concerns. We had a model, we had a view, and we had a control. Okay, with that, good luck and good coding, and just keep playing.